G'day folks, so tonight a little bit of a departure. I'm recorded myself doing some hand wrapping, and I'm just going to put a little bit of audio over the top of it for those people that are interested in how I go about wrapping hands. So working tonight with Sho, one of the Japanese fighters who trains out of Base Training Centre in Brisbane, and we're wrapping his hands. Bit of practice for me, and also because he hasn't fought for a while, so we're just getting him used to having the hands wrapped again. So what I'm doing at first here is just drying his hands off because he just came out of a grappling session, so he was a bit sweaty, and I'm also just making sure that I can feel for any injuries or anything like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to size up the pad that I'm going to make, and I want to get him to open his hand right out, and then I do some folds, just sort of fold the gauze over the top of itself, and I'm going to do that. I think I do it about 20 times. So we'll do that, and then you can watch that for a little bit, and I'll come back to you once we do that. Right, so we've finished up with the pad now, so I'll just cut that off. I think I did about 21 wraps. About 20 is normally pretty good for most fighters, but sometimes they'll let you know that they want a little bit thicker. So one of the things that I've noticed here with this one, a couple of things. First of all, you can see I've got the tape pre-prepared to go through the fingers once we've got the gauze and some of the tape on. But you'll also notice it shows sort of leaning forward a little bit. Ideally, what you'd like to do is have his arm up a little bit higher on the back of a chair, or even on a pad or something like that, to allow him to be a bit more comfortable, because really it's about the fighter's comfort more than anything else. All right, so here I'm starting off on the wrist. Get the fighter to hold his hand in a bit of a tight fist. We go around the wrist, overlapping half the thickness of each wrap. So cover about 1.5 thicknesses of it, and then we go around the hand. So we start off by going over the thumb, over the back of the knuckles. When we go over the back of the knuckles, we get him to just clench his fist to make sure that it's not feeling too tight on the thumb, and that it's not pulling and decreasing the blood flow to the tip of the thumb. So you can see that I'm just tap on his hand just to get him to open it. So we go thumb, back of the hand, the knuckles, then the back of the hand again. So we go thumb, over the knuckles, back of the hand, and this is where I'll put the pad on here. And we'll go over the top of the pad. We can be a little bit more pressure with this just to hold that in nice and tight. The gauze is quite rigid. It's not stretchy, so it's not going to tighten on his hand while it's there. So it's a good quality hand wrapping gauze that we use. So here I'm just securing the pad in place, and then I come back over the thumb, over the knuckles, get him to check to make sure that it's not too tight, especially seeing as I'll put a little bit of pressure on the pad. Okay, go over the knuckles, back of the hand, nearly drop it, good catch. And then we go back across the back of the hand, over the thumb again, and this time I go back around the wrist just to finish off with the gauze. So now that I've done the gauze, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the position of the pad. So I get Sho to make a fist, have a look where the pad is, and this allows me the opportunity just to adjust where the knuckle pad is, so it's actually covering the knuckles on the hand. Because if it's too high up, when we start taping it, the likelihood there's a potential for it to slide back a little bit, but you want to make sure you're covering it. So now what we're doing is I'm going to get a little bit of the 1-inch tape, and we'll go around the wrist. Start at the bottom of where the gauze is and work our way up. Now, one thing I noticed when I was re-watching this is I do tend to pull the tape a bit too much off the roll before I go around the wrist. but we'll talk about that in a second. So we go around the thumb, and again, the first thing I do is get him to check to make sure that that's not too tight on the thumb. Once I know that that's right, then I can rip that tape there off. We're just having a discussion about how tight he likes to have it. Language is a bit of a barrier, but it shows really good at understanding what he wants. Go to the underside of the hand, over the thumb, pressing on the tape just to make sure that I'm not putting too much tension on it and wrapping the thumb too tightly. Back around to where I stopped on the last one. And now we prepare the bar. So that section of gauze that you see under the at the end of the fingers is called the bar, and we'll put these strips of tape through the bar. You'll see that we just secure it over the top. It'll give the fighter something to grip onto, just hence the name the bar. So from here I get him to clench his fist, put a bit of pressure on, so we're pressing the pad back into the knuckles and back over the top of the wrist. So we do 3 of these. I always start with the middle one and then work my way to either side. So going to the outside here. There's a number of ways to do this. You can do it starting from the wrist and coming back over and under. I like to put the tape just on the end of my finger. The head coach and owner of the gym, Damien Brown, who's ex-UFC, he said that was the way some of the guys that used to wrap his hands in the UFC used to do it. So I've adopted that into the way I do mine. So I've got the final one, a little bit of twisting on the tape. And I do that mainly so the tape doesn't get caught in between the fingers, because I don't want the fighter to be uncomfortable. And with these, you can see there that I've gone over the back of the wrist. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to secure them with a little bit of tape. Just a couple of strips of tape here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to work up in strips. Once I've done that little bit over there, just readjust his position. And we're just going to go starting at the thumb, across to the other side of the hand, just doing strips of tape. You can put a little bit of pressure down here because you're not going around the hand, you're just going across the top. So I get to the back of the knuckle pad. Now I'm going to just keep going up the knuckle pad. And as with any of these taping, you've got to remember that you can't put tape any closer than an inch from the back of from the knuckles. So I stopped a little bit short there. Normally I would go a little bit further and go right up to that 1 inch from the back of the knuckles. I won't talk through the second hand that I'll do. I'll just let that one run, and you can see that I go a little bit further with that one. So what I'm doing here is layering the tape, sort of like in a laminating effect. So we've gone across the hand initially. Now we're going down the hand, starting at the outside of the 5th metacarpal, which is the bone just at the base of the pinky finger, and working our way across all the way over to the thumb. Make sure the tape's nice and secure. And now we're going to start, as we did initially, going around the wrist and going back. This is our final cover over the entire hand. So now you can see we're going over the thumb one last time, making sure that that's nice and secure for show. Going across. Now we'll just continue layering across the back of the hand, and this time we'll go right the way up to just before the knuckles. And you'll see here that we help to secure the bar. I get him to open his hand, we turn it over, run the tape across the back of the underside of the hand, get him to hold a nice tight fist, open it up again, one more across the bar, and we'll use that to help to secure the gauze in place so it's not too insecure for him. So now I'm just checking to make sure that the bar's in place, and we're going to cut off this excess gauze that's over the palm of his hand and around the base of his thumb, and neaten it right up. Well, one thing I'll do here with a lot of grapplers, I'll make a slit in the center of the tape, just at the, you You can see just making a slit here. Now, depending on the grappler, on the fighter, I should say, whether he's a grappler or a striker. If he's a striker, I'll normally go to like the first crease. If he's a grappler and needs a little bit more wrist dexterity, I'll normally go to the second crease. So I'll cut down a little bit further with it there if that's the case. So I'm just getting show to make sure that that's not restricting his wrist movement too much. Roll on the hand over, get him to make a fist, make sure that pad's nice and firmly in place. You can run your scissors over the tape there just to secure that in place. And we're all done. So I'm going to move on to the second hand now. I'm not going to talk so much through this one. We'll just let it run, and you'll see that there are a couple of things that I do slightly differently. It helps to make sure that you're really consistent right the way through. One of the boys from the gym, Gray, coming over to say hello. So it's really important, like I said, that you're consistent with it. And this is one of the things that I guess because I was focused on filming it the first time, that I wasn't really consistent. I missed a couple of things. But yeah, that can happen sometimes. We'll just let this run for a little bit. So you can see here, again, wrapping over the pad, securing in place. One of the things I neglected to do with this one was readjust it. It was doing his hands for training, so it's not the end of the world. But again, like I said before, it's important to be consistent with the hand wrapping that you're doing. It's also important to make sure that in your effort to get it done that you're not rushing, not pulling too hard on the gauze or the tape. You don't want to cause any discomfort to the fighter. So yeah, so you can see here, finished with that. Put the scissors out of the way, and we just go straight into taping. So I didn't really readjust the knuckle pad on this one. So we're coming to the end of the taping now, just doing the laminating or the layering of the tape. We've gone across and around. Now we're going back down the hand and the wrist, making sure that that's nice and secure. Again, shows like is pretty comfortable, but like if I was doing this again, I probably want to look at getting him in a little bit more of a comfortable position. And in the vein of doing things again, I'm going to re-record this with another fighter in the next sort of couple of weeks, and we're going to get a slightly different angle. I noticed from looking at this one, the angle needs to be a little bit more looking down from on top, or potentially even looking from my point of view. So, you know, who knows, I might even try it with a GoPro on my head and sort of record it sort of first person and talk my way through it there. Again, like I say, you can see it's important when you're doing this taping that try to hold the tape on the wrist before you pull it, so that you're not putting undue pressure on the wrist and putting the tape on too tightly. So just getting Sho to check there to make sure that that was comfortable for him. And we've got the last couple of bits to put on now. We go right the way up to that 1 inch spot from the knuckle pad, from the knuckles, I should say. And we'll go through one more here. Yep, and that should cover it. Get to judge it pretty well these days. Go around, back over. One thing I will say, a lot of this technique is stuff that I've learned from some very experienced people. So a shout out to Richie Elliott, UFC Cutman, who I haven't had the opportunity to work with as yet, and you know, one day we might. A fair bit of this is taken from a video that he's got on YouTube, and I'll try and link that below. But yeah, he's a very experienced cutman and hand wrapper, not just in the UFC but in combat sports, and also from the Cutman course that I did a few years ago with Pete Hickmott and with Pete Allen. And Pete Allen's sort of my mentor when it comes to Cutman work. So, you know, a lot of this stuff comes from the stuff I've done with them and from a bit of Richie Elliott stuff there. Obviously, you need to adjust it sometimes. So we're going to leave it there, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks very much.